Okay, let's unpack this. The United Arab Emirates, it's this global magnet, right? For talent, ambition, people looking for a fresh start. Millions from all over the world see the UAE as the place to be. For work, maybe bringing family, investing. But, with big opportunities, sometimes there are big risks, unfortunately. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something really critical, visa and labor fraud in the UAE. We'll look at the pretty severe legal consequences for anyone caught doing this. We'll shine a light on how these fraudsters operate. And, most importantly, we want to arm you with what you need to know to protect yourself, protect your dreams.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you think about it, how the UAE, this major international hub, handles the sheer complexity of having such a huge expatriate population. The laws there are incredibly strict. They have to be, really, to keep things stable, both for society and the integrity of the job market. So our discussion today, it's not just about, listing the laws, it's also about spotting those red flags. Often they're quite subtle, things that can turn what looks like a golden opportunity into, well, a pretty heartbreaking scam. It's about seeing the human side, too.
Right. Let's maybe start with some basics, some context. We're talking about a country where, get this, something like 88% of the people living there are international migrants. That's the highest proportion anywhere in the world.
88%, it's staggering.
It really is. And mostly, these are low-wage or semi-skilled workers. Big communities from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Egypt, the Philippines. This huge flow of people, it creates its own set of challenges and, well, vulnerabilities, too.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, that massive number of people just looking for a chance, it creates an environment that's unfortunately ripe for exploitation. We hear these really distressing stories like Maria's story you mentioned. It just brings home the human cost.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, Maria, she's from the Philippines. She was drawn in by what looked like an amazing job offer. High pay admin role, sounded perfect. Turned out it didn't even exist.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She borrowed a lot of money from family mostly, put pretty much their life savings into what she was told were, processing fees, visa costs. Then she gets to Dubai, full of hope, obviously, and finds nothing. No job. The company doesn't exist. The agent, gone, vanished.
Just stranded.
Completely stranded. Savings gone, dreams shattered. And, this isn't just a one-off story. It's a really stark reminder of how quickly things can go wrong.
Wow. Marie's experience really highlights why this is so important. Which brings us to the serious legal side. The UAE government, they have a zero-tolerance policy on this stuff. Visa and residency fraud. It's not just about minor rule bending. So what exactly are the penalties if someone gets caught forging visas or documents related to visas? It's serious, right?
Oh, absolutely serious. The legal system there sends a very, very clear message. Look, according to the Dubai Public Prosecution, anyone caught forging a visa or a residence permit or, frankly, any official document connected to these, if they're doing it to try and get around the rules, they're facing prison. Up to 10 years.
10 years?
10 years. And it's not just the person making the forgery. The same penalty applies if you use a forged document knowing it's fake. The thinking behind it is pretty clear. National security, protecting the job market, upholding the law. They don't want illicit stuff undermining the system.
Okay, 10 years in jail. Yeah, that's profound. Can you tell us a bit more about the specific laws, what statutes give this teeth? And how exactly do they define forgery? It sounds like it could cover quite a few different things.
Right. So the main law here is Federal Decree Law number 29 of 2021, specifically Article 24, which deals with the entry and residence of foreigners. But forgery as a crime, that's defined more broadly in the Federal Penal Code. That's Federal Decree Law number 31 of 2021. And forgery, well, it basically covers any intentional messing with or faking of official documents. So that could be altering things on a real document, changing words, numbers, pictures. It could be putting fake signatures or seals on something, or tricking someone into signing something they don't understand, creating fake documents entirely from scratch, filling in blank forms without permission, even pretending to be someone else, or changing the truth on a proof document while it's being made.
So a really wide net.
A very wide net. And critically, Article 126 of the Penal Code adds another layer for non-UAE nationals if they commit these crimes. Mandatory deportation after they serve any sentence.
So prison time and deportation.
Exactly. It's a double hit.
And look, this isn't just legal theory, is it? There was a huge case just came out this week showing these laws are definitely being enforced. What happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. Just on June 24th, 2025, so very recent, the Dubai Citizenship and Residency Court handed down a major conviction. 21 people, different nationalities, found guilty in what's being called one of Dubai's biggest residency visa fraud cases ever. And The fine, collectively, they were fined AED 25.210 million.
Oh, say that again.
25.21 million dirhams. That's over 6.8 million US dollars.
That is just astronomical. So what was their scheme? How did they even operate to rack up a fine that big? What were they actually doing?
Well, the investigation showed it was pretty sophisticated. These individuals, they'd set up 33 different commercial establishments, but these companies were completely fake. They existed only on paper. Shell companies, basically. No actual business going on.
Just names and addresses.
Exactly. Fake addresses, too. And they use these phantom companies to illegally get and then sell 385 residence visas.
385 visas.
Yeah. The whole operation was just designed to exploit the residency and labor rules for profit, directly undermining, social stability in the job market. It was actually the General Directorate of Residency and Foreigners Affairs in Dubai, the GDRFA. They're the ones who initially flagged these dodgy-looking companies. That triggered a whole lot of monitoring inspections. And eventually, they uncovered the whole scam. It really shows the authorities are actively looking for this stuff.
Okay, so that sounds like a really organized, complex operation. Makes it tough for just a regular person to spot, maybe. So for someone who's just looking for a genuine job, a legitimate visa, how can they possibly spot these kinds of scams before they get caught out, before they end up like Maria? What are the key warning signs? What should people look out for?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? How do you, the listener, protect yourself? Okay, first thing, be super wary of fake job offers. These often promise amazing, high-paying jobs that just seem unrealistic. Or maybe roles you seem way overqualified for with little experience needed. The scam nearly always involves them demanding money up front. Processing fees, visa fees, something like that. And then once you pay, poof, communication just stops. They disappear.
Right, fees up front is a big one.
Huge one. Second, watch out for fraudulent visa agents. People who charge crazy fees for visas that turned out to be fake, or maybe they manipulate the system somehow. Either way, you end up stranded.
Okay, let's break that down a bit more. Are there specific phrases or demands or maybe situations that should just immediately ring alarm bells like, stop, something's wrong here?
Yeah, definitely. A major red flag, as we said, is if the job offer just seems too good to be true. Unrealistic promises, like getting a visa instantly without the proper paperwork, or a salary that's way, way higher than the industry standard for that kind of job in the UAE. Another massive warning sign. Any kind of pressure to pay upfront fees. For the visa, for processing, sometimes even just for an interview, you absolutely need to remember, in the UAE, the employer is legally required to pay all the recruitment costs, including the visa, for their employees. If they're asking you to pay, huge red flag.
So the money should flow to the employee, not from them initially.
Precisely. And finally, just be cautious if there's a lack of transparency. If the company is really vague about what the job actually involves, or the work process, or where you'll be working, or key details about the visa, maybe they only communicate through like WhatsApp or personal email addresses, avoiding official company channels. A legitimate company will be clear, open, and give you information you can check.
Okay, so with all that in mind, what's the takeaway for someone trying to navigate this? If you suspect something isn't right, or even if you're just starting out, what should you do? What are the immediate steps?
Right. The absolute first, most crucial step is pause and verify. Don't rush into anything. Do your own homework. Research the company. Research the visa agent. Independently. Don't just rely on what they tell you. If you get a job offer, it must be an official offer letter issued by the UAE's Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratisation, that's MOHRE. You can check if it's legit. Contact the UAE embassy or consulate in your home country. Or you can check directly on the MOHR website using the offer number they give you. That's your main shield against fake offers.
Okay, verifying the offer letter through official channels. That makes sense. What about the visa itself? Once you have what looks like a legitimate offer, how do you check the actual visa document and make sure it's the right type of visa?
Good point. It's vital to be crystal clear here. A visit visa or a tourist visa does not give you the right to work in the UAE. If you work on one of those, you could face big penalties. Fines, detention, deportation.
So you can't just come on a tourist visa and then find a job?
No, not legally. Once you sign a proper, verified offer letter, your employer is the one who applies for it and sends you an employment visa. And it's absolutely essential you check the validity of any entry permit or visa they send you. Again, use the official government websites. If it's a Dubai-issued visa, use the GDRFA website, the General Directorate of Residency and Foreigners Affairs. If the visa is from Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Ajman, Al Quwain, Ras Al Khaimah, or Fujairah, you use the e-channels platform. That's the federal government's online portal. Also, always check the company actually exists legally. Search for it on the National Economic Register. That lists all the registered businesses in the UAE.
So multiple layers of verification are possible.
Yes. And if you have any doubts, any questions, MoHR has a hotline, email, chat support. They're there for inquiries and complaints. If you really suspect a scam, report it immediately to MoHR or the local police, and just stop all contact with whoever seems suspicious. Your own vigilance is really your best defense.
That's incredibly useful, practical advice for personal safety.
Yeah.
But if we zoom out again, put this back into the bigger picture, it does seem to highlight some underlying vulnerabilities for migrant workers. We often hear about the kafala system in the Gulf region. How does that system kind of intersect with these fraud issues? How has it changed?
Right, the kafala system. Historically, it essentially tied migrant workers directly to their employers, their sponsors. And unfortunately, that created pretty significant power imbalances. It could create environments where exploitation was, well, easier. Workers often couldn't leave their job or even the country without the employer's permission. That made them very vulnerable.
But there have been changes, right? Reforms.
Oh, yes. It's really important to acknowledge that. The UAE has brought in significant reforms over the years. They've worked to dismantle the most exploitative parts of kafala. Things like banning recruitment fees being charged to workers, removing the need for employer permission, the NOC or no objection certificate to change jobs or leave the country, and implementing the wage protection system, the WPS, which makes sure salaries are paid on time, directly into bank accounts.
Okay, those sound like substantial changes on paper. But we still hear about problems, vulnerabilities. So where are the gaps? What challenges do workers still face, practically speaking, even with these laws?
That's a really important point. The legal framework has definitely improved, but sometimes there are gaps in enforcement or maybe lack of awareness among workers. That can still leave people vulnerable. For instance, even though it's illegal, things like employers confiscating passports or wage theft or contract substitution, where someone signs one contract back home and then gets a different, worse one when they arrive. These things, unfortunately, still happen sometimes.
So the law might be there, but making it work perfectly on the ground is the challenge.
Exactly. The challenge is making sure the intent of the law really becomes real protection for every single person, especially for workers who maybe don't know their rights fully or face language barriers or are perhaps scared to speak out because they fear losing their job or being deported or blacklisted. Things like access to good legal help and being able to report abuse confidently without fear of retaliation, these are still ongoing areas the authorities are focusing on. They're strengthening whistleblower protections, cracking down on these big fraud rings. It's a constant effort, really, given the scale of the migrant population.
So, pulling all this together, what does it all mean for you, the listener? Whether you're thinking about moving to the UAE or maybe you're just interested in these global dynamics, it seems the UAE offers amazing opportunities, no doubt. But it absolutely demands vigilance. What we've talked about today shows there's a really clear line: severe consequences for anyone trying to cheat the system with fraudulent visas. But equally, a really vital need for you as someone hoping to go there, to be informed, to be cautious.
Exactly right. The UAE government is clearly working hard. They're fighting financial crime, trying to protect workers, strengthening their systems, going after these big fraud operations like the one we discussed. But at the end of the day, your safety often comes down to your own informed decisions. Knowing who to trust, knowing how to check. It's about empowering yourself with that knowledge.
Absolutely. For anyone looking to start that new chapter, seize that opportunity in the UAE. The best visa, the safest visa, is always going to be one built on knowledge, on verified truth, and just really understanding the landscape you're stepping into. Your dream shouldn't ever have to be built on somebody else's deception.